Hi everybody, it's Joel from LowerMyPressure.com. Today I'll be reviewing the Emwave Personal Stress Reliever by HeartMath. Now before I start, I think it's important for you to know that I actually have some pretty substantial experience with the HeartMath line of products, and I do use them on a regular basis. So in a way I might be slightly biased towards the Emwave because I've had some personal breakthroughs in terms of my own anxiety reduction. Although the way that I look at it, would you rather have a review from someone who actually uses the product or someone who just reads you facts and figures from some clinical documentation? In a way, I guess it's kind of like the difference between having a pilot who's only landed an airplane in a flight simulator or actually having an experienced pilot that's landed a plane hundreds of times. So which one would you rather have? Okay, now back to the point of this video. I don't think that there's any argument about the fact that we live in very stressful times, and developing the ability to deal with the challenge of living in these stressful times is now more important than ever. We definitely all go on this emotional roller coaster during the day. We have our highs and lows, hopefully more, highs than lows, but it takes a lot of energy just to get through the day, trying to stay focused, trying to do our jobs, and hopefully we have enough energy left at the end of the day to deal with our own private obligations away from the workplace. So how do we do it? How do we learn to deal with these negative emotions that cause us stress? How do we learn to manage stress and to substitute positive and calm feelings for the negative feelings that confront us on a daily basis? Well, a good start would be the Emwave by HeartMath. Well, I'm sure you've all heard the expression, listen to your heart. I'll take it to heart. And I'm sure at some point you've had a family member or friend say, for God's sakes, just follow your heart and stop bugging me. Well, you know what? There's actually more truth to those statements than you might think. It's no coincidence that we've come to accept a certain intrinsic intelligence to our heart. When we develop the ability to listen and follow our innate heart intelligence, the more balanced and coherent our emotions become. Now, the Emwave measures our coherence by analyzing the subtle beat-to-beat changes in the time intervals between our heartbeats. Now, these beat-to-beat changes create our heart rhythm pattern. Now, when we experience stress in our lives, our heart rhythm pattern becomes irregular and incoherent, and this incoherent pattern negatively affects our health and sense of well-being. Now, on the other hand, when we're experiencing positive emotions such as appreciation, care, joy, or love, our heart rhythm becomes more ordered and more coherent. Now, these harmonious heart rhythms from your positive emotional attitudes send signals to the brain to reduce stress, improve brain function, improve our hormonal balance, improve our immune response, and can also improve your coordination and reaction times. Now, personally, I use the Emwave before I play tennis, and it really helps me to stay focused and positive during the match. Now, by practicing with your Emwave, you can learn to create more heart rhythm coherence and use this remarkable skill to experience a life with far less stress and the ability to be far more resilient when you are faced with stressful situations. Now, in the next couple of minutes, I'll give you a guided tour of the Emwave and even take you through a live Emwave session so that you can see how I use the Emwave to reduce stress in my life. All right, well, here we go. We're up close and personal with the Emwave Personal Stress Reliever. Although it's very small in size, the people at HeartMath have built in a lot of big features, and they've done a really nice job in keeping things very simple, and also it's very easy to understand these displays as you're in your actual Emwave session. So what I want to do over the next couple of minutes is just give you a quick overview of the Emwave itself, and then we'll go into a live Emwave session so you can see all these features used in real time. The very first thing that you'll see on the side here is that you've got two plug-in ports, And the larger one on the left-hand side is to plug in your AC adapter so you recharge the internal batteries. The one on the right-hand side is to plug in the external heart rate monitor sensor, which is actually the clip-on sensor that goes onto your ear. There is another way to measure your heart rate without using the clip-on if you don't want to. And they've built it into this little multi-function keypad right here. Not only is it a heart rate sensor by putting your finger onto the keypad, but this sensor keypad is also the on-off switch by pushing on the bottom. It also can control the volume, and it can control the brightness of these displays on the side. And also, when you get really good at being coherent on the very first level of difficulty, you can up the level of difficulty to train yourself even better to become coherent. So right now we have a couple displays on the side, and they're very simple but yet very powerful indicators of how you're doing in your Emwave session. The very top display, this little area right here, will tell you what level of coherence that you're in at your time that you're doing the session. When it's in red, that means that you're just starting out, you're in low coherence, and you're just at normal. When it turns to blue, that means that you're in medium coherence, but you're improving. And when it turns to green, you're in very high or optimal coherence. And that's what you ultimately want to get to. And once you get really good at being in the green level, high level of coherence, then you're really reaching your goal, and you might want to up your challenge level. On the very bottom, this little indicator is going to turn blue, and it's going to pulsate with every heartbeat that it detects as you use the Emwave. And this little area in the center is really clever, and once we get into the live demonstration, you'll see how terrific this looks. They call that the heart action strip, and that actually gives you a real-time representation of how well you're keeping coherent, and it also acts as a breath rate pacer, so it tells you when to breathe in, breathe out. In the very beginning, that's very important to try to help you reach that coherent state. So that's a quick overview of the Emwave, and now we're going to go ahead and I'm going to do a live session for you so you can see all these features used in real time. Well, as promised, I'm going to do a live session with the Emwave to show you how you can use it to alleviate your stress in your everyday life, and also give you a really good idea on how all the displays interact with your session. I'm going to go ahead and turn the unit on, and also you notice that I'm using the ear heart rate sensor, so I've got my hands free. To turn the unit on, it's very simple. This universal keypad here is kind of like a toggle, and I'm going to go ahead and press on the bottom to turn the unit on. You get a small confirmation tone, and it goes into a self-test. And then on the bottom, you'll notice that it'll start to pick up my heartbeat in just a second. And there we go. It's going fairly quickly because I'm speaking at the same time. This also gives you a good indication as to how you should breathe up and down. And you notice that I'm not in coherence at all right now because I'm speaking and not really paying attention to what I'm trying to do. I'm going to go ahead and try to breathe with this particular pattern, and as I do, hopefully I'll turn from red, which is not really being in coherence at all, to sort of in the blue, and then I'll go into the green when I get into full coherence. Remember, what you want to try to do is that you want to try to think in terms of things that bring you a lot of joy in your life, peace. You want to think of different scenarios in your mind that actually bring you a lot of joy. And right now I'm picturing going hiking with my dad, and I'm also speaking at the same time, so it's kind of hard to keep in coherence. But you notice that I'm in the blue zone. Now, my dad has been gone now for quite a long time, but just the memory of being with him and being hiking kind of gives me a lot of joy. Now notice that because I'm speaking, I've gone completely out of coherence. So maybe what I'll do in just a second here is to shut up and think of the things that bring me joy and peace, and less anxiety in my life. And it will then, I'll try to go back into coherence. You notice I'm turning back into blue because I'm using that visual picture of going hiking with my dad, which brings me a lot of joy and a lot of peace and a lot of good thoughts. You also notice that every time that I'm able to achieve being in coherence, I get one more little mark here on the bar, the display bar, and my ultimate goal is to stay in coherence so that I can fill up this bar. And of course, the more that I fill up the bar, the more I stay in coherence, and the more I'm actually getting my whole body in line and in tune with really terrific thoughts, and I'm synchronizing my breathing and my heart, and I'm speaking too much, so I'm getting out of coherence. See, I'm going into red now. Joel, if you could just shut up, you would do a lot better. Also, for every time that I stay out of coherence, I start losing bars over here. What I'll do is I'll probably pause for just a second, go back into coherence, and show you what happens when you're able to fill up this entire area. And the real trick is that you want to be able to use the things that get you into coherence almost subconsciously when you enter into an arena of your life where things are a little bit anxious for you. You want to be able to bring up the feeling of joy, contentment, love, and you also want to do your breathing, which they call heart breathing, which is to kind of visualize that you're breathing actually through the center of your chest, right through where your heart is. And I'm visualizing that right now, and you notice that I've gone back to green and gone back to coherence. The neat thing about this unit is that it really pinpoints the things that bring you joy, contentment, love, a feeling of being very relaxed in your life. And you'll be surprised at the things that you learn about yourself, things that you would never learn in therapy with a therapist. And you can use these things to bring into a therapy session. And I'm getting off track here again because I'm speaking of therapy. I guess I don't like therapy that much. So I'm going from red. I'm not thinking of therapy anymore. I'm not thinking of therapy. And see, I'm going back to green. It's a wonderful tool to really help us sort out what really makes a difference in our lives. And I'm almost to the top here. And you'll see what happens when I get to the top. Well, I've just filled up the entire display by keeping in coherence. I'm going out of coherence now because I'm speaking once again. What I wanted to say, and I'm going to go ahead and shut this off, and you shut it off just by pressing down and keeping it down. The main thing is that you learn tools to be able to calm you when you're in those anxious times or times that you've had a hard day and that you need to kind of, as we say, chill out. It's a really valuable tool because it gives us the tools to be able to handle our own anxiety and our own stress. And that's really, really powerful stuff. And after you've been able to use your Emwave for a while, you're able to take what you've learned and you're going to find out some unbelievable things about yourself, what kind of visual cues and what things actually calm you. And you do that in the privacy of your own home. You don't have to be in a therapist's office, answering questions and trying to ponder over the answers. To me, sometimes, and I have a lot of respect for therapists and for therapy, but I think sometimes there's some things that we need to work out ourselves. And I think this is a very valuable tool to be able to maximize our time in a therapist's office or maximize the amount of time that we spend on ourselves and self-improvement. So I hope that this small little display of the Emwave in use has given you some ideas on how you can use it in your everyday life. And it's really a wonderful tool, and I really think that you should, if you have any doubts about being able to use it correctly. You saw that I was able to speak and kind of go into coherence at the same time by using some visual cues that give me a lot of peace and a lot of comfort. And just imagine you're being able to use that in an everyday situation where you're feeling a little bit of stress. I think it's a really terrific and valuable tool for all of us that suffer from stress and anxiety. So I really urge you to give it a try. Well, as you've seen, the great beauty of the Emwave is that it acts as our own personal translator. It's not that we don't want to speak to our own heart and mind, it's just that we don't know the language. In a way, the Emwave teaches us to speak the same internal language as our bodies so that we can work with our own natural rhythms instead of against them. Instead of fighting with our body over negative feelings, we can develop the ability to bring this great new clarity into our lives. We learn to experience joy, contentment, appreciation, and love, and to substitute these positive feelings for the negative feelings that prevent us from reaching our potential and moving forward. It's my hope that this review has given you some food for thought, maybe opened you up to the possibility that you can indeed reduce your own stress and anxiety like I've done with the Emwave and other HeartMath products. The bottom line is that you never know until you try. As always, please feel free to contact me if you have any questions or comments. Thanks again for watching. I wish you the best of health.